Today's episode is being sponsored by me. Now, you've probably heard me mention the El Rey Network docuseries Rebel Without a Crew that I participated in as an actor. Well, Hollywood director Robert Rodriguez chose 5 filmmaking teams to make their first feature film for $7,000 in just 14 shooting days. And I was afforded the opportunity of developing a short film I'd worked on into a feature-length movie directed by my extremely talented friend, Alejandro Montoya Marin. The docuseries is available on iTunes, and as of this week, so is our feature film Monday, which I star in. So if you like action comedies and want to see just what's possible for a scrappy band of indie filmmakers led by the iconic Robert Rodriguez, then check us out, now, on iTunes. If you're a professional actor challenged by an increasingly fragmented industry, then this podcast is for you. The Hollywood Actor Podcast is an anthology made up of the stories of actors building their bodies of work by redefining themselves, reframing their goals, and reevaluating their opportunities. No matter where we are in our careers, we're always looking to be inspired and to share ourselves across our community. This podcast offers that opportunity to guests and to listeners alike as we all discover what it means to be a working, professional, successful actor. This is Jamie Young, and you're listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. Today's guest is Sarah Minnich. Sarah received her BA and MA in communication from the University of New Mexico and has studied extensively with acting coach Bob Jesser. Her credits include AMC's Better Call Saul, Lifetime's Pregnant and Deadly, and you can see her work in the upcoming film Running with the Devil, hitting theaters later this month. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And now, please welcome Hollywood actor Sarah Minnich.
Okay, so how I got into the industry and how I sort of got into acting and where it all began. That's an interesting question because you could really say it began in any number of places. I usually answer this question by saying, well, I was born in front of a camera and da-da-da-da-da, which is true. My father literally had a camera pointed at my mother's private parts as I was exiting her body. So I've always been in front of the camera. My father will always be a photographer. And so I sort of just, that was normal. It was normal for a lens to be in front of me. It was just a very normal thing. It never caused me anxiety. And then as an early adolescent, I wanted to be a model. I was like, oh, I need to be a model, blah, blah. I'm going to be in magazines and blah, you know. And this was still at a stage in my life where I was extremely ignorant. And I can say that about myself because I'm talking about myself. But I was, God help me, so ignorant. And I started going to Los Angeles. I lived in Little Rock, California, which is where I was born and raised, which is near Palmdale. A lot of people, when I say Little Rock, they say, oh, Arkansas. No, it's near Palmdale, Lancaster, and the Antelope Valley.
Antelope Valley.
Yeah, the Antelope Valley. You go up the 14 from Valencia, and you'll eventually hit it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I started traveling to LA on a maybe even weekly basis, if bi-monthly, if not weekly basis, trying to get in with Ford, LA Models, Wilhelmina, you know, all the big modeling agencies in Los Angeles. And they kept telling me the same thing. They were like, oh, well, you're too short, you know, or they just wouldn't even see me and they wouldn't say anything. And they were like, oh, no, thank you. Bye. You know, and it was the same thing over and over again. So at a very early age, I want to say 15, 14 years old, I became familiar with rejection. And so I said, okay, that's okay. You can't stop me. I'll just keep coming. So I kept going. And I got with a modeling / acting agency called Peak Models in, I believe they were in the Valley, I think. I don't know where. This was years ago, God help me. And I got with them, and they sent me out on my first acting audition. They said, well, you know, we think you should try acting. And I was like, okay, you know, and so they sent me out on this audition for an independent feature film called Spring Break Massacre. Yeah.
I love it.
For the lead in this, right? I'd never auditioned.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know. I'd never done any acting before, and I'd not auditioned. And they were like, here, we're just going to send you on this. And, if you bomb it, well, hey, you can learn. I was like, okay, whatever. So I went for this audition, and there were 30, 40 girls it was at one of those massive audition locations in Hollywood. I don't remember where it was because, again, this was years ago. But I remember the place very specifically as being a place where they often cast commercials, and it's just a big place. Anyway, so I go in there. There's 30, 40 girls. Most of them look like me. And I was like, well, this is going to be interesting. Why not? And, when you're young, it's sort of like you'll go try anything and nobody can stop you. I'll tell you another story later about auditioning to be a singer in a girl band. And I was so bad. I just did it anyways, because when you're young, you're just like, whatever, if you don't like me, then, whatever. So anyway, I went into this audition for Spring Break Massacre. And I remember Rick Fetterman and Michael Hoffman were in the room. And Michael Hoffman was the director, producer, writer, all the things. He was all the things. And Rick Fetterman at the time was a moderately successful actor in Los Angeles. And I went in and I did my thing and I acted scared and I did the Scream Queen and, and I was like, okay, that was cool, whatever. And I left. And I don't know, maybe a week later, they were like, well, yeah, you got it. And I was like, oh, okay, what? I just was shocked by this because I'd never auditioned before. And I thought all these girls were so much more qualified than was I. And so I think I walked in there with a headshot and no resume because I was like, I haven't done any, I don't know what you guys want, but I'll try. And so we ended up filming outside of Chicago. So it was an on-location. I know. Yeah. It was an on-location shoot. I got to fly there. There were 2 or 3 other women in the film, and I was the ingenue, which, I haven't done that since, but that was fun. I got to be an ingenue, and then there were 2 or 3 other bad girls, a little bit older. Not bad girls like they were bad, but like I'm a badass kind of badass type chicks. And it was one of the most fun experiences I credit to the early years of acting. It was so much fun. I was just besotted with the experience. I think at that age, I just liked the attention and I got to be the center of attention and the camera was on me. And I mean, let's really be honest about our motives at that age. And I was barely 18. I mean, like days old, 18. And I loved it. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do this, And then, so at the time, I'm graduating high school, okay? And this is important. I know it seems like a tangent, but it's not. I was graduating high school, and I graduated valedictorian. I came from teacher parents, and I got into UCLA, which was my dream. I had planned for UCLA since the time that I got out of middle school and went into high school. I got in, and we decided, well, we can't afford it, so you can't go. And this was so devastating for me at the time that I sort of fell apart. I got in a bad car accident. Accidentally, it was very much an accident. There was a accident between a motorcyclist and myself, and he was badly injured. He's okay now. But that paired with not going to UCLA, which had been my plan for so long, everything in my life was for that. I lost it. And so I ran away from home and I did horrible things. Well, I think society judges them as horrible. They were, looking back, learning experiences and things that made me very much who I am and the strong woman I am today. But they were really, really sad and unfortunate and horrible at the time. And being a runaway in LA, I think I was in Woodland Hills, was brutal. It was brutal. And so eventually fast forward a little bit of time, I ended up getting a job in property management. And so for a couple of years, I was working in property management in apartments. And the climax of that was working in Malibu, living in a $10,000 a month apartment, renting out apartments to like, what's her name from Friends? Courtney
Cox?
Thank you. She comes in one day. She's looking at an apartment. I was just like used to seeing these massive, not massive as in physically large, but massive as in metaphorically large people coming in. And I was badly dependent on marijuana at this point. And I was using so much that I was making a lot of money working in Malibu, and maybe 75% of it was going to my marijuana habit at the time. And so, fast forward from running away, I haven't acted since at that point. So from the time I did Spring Break Massacre, when I ran away from home and got into some big trouble, I thought my career was over. I was like, oh, I'll never act again. I'll be a pariah. It's done. It's over. Yeah. And so I gave up. And, like I said, ended up in Malibu. And finally, I was so depressed and miserable. I was alone, and I was on the marijuana, and I didn't have friends, and I was just working all the time and making money, and it was going nowhere. And I was just miserable. So finally, one day, it must have been in 2007 or early 2008, I was so miserable that I said, I have to leave. I have to get out of here. I can't do this anymore. And I had gotten fired from the Malibu job because they did hair follicle testing for marijuana. And when they initially hired me, they said, if you stay on it, we're going to fire you. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I just stayed on it. And of course, 3 months later, they fired me. And so I went back to the house of my childhood in Little Rock, and I was living there, but my parents had already moved to New Mexico. So I'm sitting there, I'm miserable, I'm depressed, the whole 9 yards. And I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to be with people that love me. I need to start my life over. I never went to college because it was such a letdown with UCLA. And so I applied at the time to UNM here in New Mexico. And of course I got in. I had great grades. I was never a stupid person. I just didn't have street smarts. And I ended up moving in 2008 to New Mexico, and I started my bachelor's degree. And then sometime around, I don't know, the second year of my bachelor degree, so maybe 2009, 2010, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to go do some background work in acting just for fun because I miss being on set, and I was on set once, but I missed it. Yeah. And so I did some background work on this TV show Scoundrels that was filming here, and I did background work on a couple other shows that I can't remember now. Again, I was still pretty addicted to marijuana at the time. And eventually I got an agent. It was with Maja, who was a local agent here. She's no longer an agent. And I booked my first 2 acting roles. Well, they were considered principal roles here in New Mexico. The first one was on the TV show In Plain Sight. My scene made it to the cutting room floor and didn't make it any further, so I can't really credit that very well. And then the second one that I booked was Breaking Bad. And although I didn't have any lines, I got to sort of be on Jesse, the whole night. That was the character. I was the dancing chick with him. And I don't know why they wanted to hire a principal for that, other than the fact that I was literally on him, the whole evening. Yeah. So I booked those 2, and shortly after, Maja left the industry, and I changed to Applause Talent Agency, which was run by Carissa Mitchell. And then slowly, over the next 3 to 4 years, I started booking roles, little, here and there, types of roles. And again, at this point in my life, I'm still having a really hard time. I still had a hard time. I was still depressed and dependent on marijuana, but still, at least I was going for my bachelor's, etc. Finally, in 2013, I graduated with a bachelor's and applied for graduate school here to start a master's program. So
what was your undergrad in?
Communication, specifically interpersonal communication, which is also what my master's is in. And finally, during my master's program, I think it was in 2014, early 2014, that I met my husband. and I was doing short films and such. And it wasn't, though, until maybe 2017 that I started. I mean, I made improvement from 2008 to 2017, but it didn't really start to take effect in my life until about 2017. And I've had my act together and my success together, and my ability to walk forward and be strong and successful and okay with myself and drug free and all of that since then. And now today, the roles I'm getting are much bigger and more exciting. And paired with that, I'm happily married and I'm very healthy and I have my shit together. So let's see, how long was that journey that I just went over with you, from 2005 to 2019? So about 14 years of actually getting to where I'm at today in the acting industry, while I took a 3-4 year hiatus.
Yeah, and the momentum building from background in New Mexico to those being represented by an agent and co-stars. It's been quite the journey.
Yeah, and then I finally got a guest star
journey.
too. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I was just saying mostly the personal journey, which is so intertwined with us, especially in the acting business, I feel.
Well, I really feel like it's mirrored, when and don't get me wrong, there are really successful actors out there who are still in severe personal turmoil, but I think there are quite a few as well that their journey in acting and their journey in their career has at least somewhat paralleled their journey in personal acceptance and happiness and conquering, or not even conquering, but being at peace with depression or anxiety, etc. And so for me, there's been so much growth in the past 5 years. It's crazy. And so where I'm at today is so different from where I was then.
So exciting.
Yeah. Anyway, so does that answer your question on how I got into acting, or did I go a little off
tangent
there?
It sure does. I did want to kind of return to the early days when you were visiting Los Angeles, starting to work with a modeling agency / theatrical agency. And were they asking you to go out to any types of acting classes, or did you have an acting coach while you were in Los Angeles, or did you find any of these classes more recently once you moved to New Mexico?
No, I didn't actually start training in acting until 2016 or 2017. So when I booked my first role, I had nothing in terms of training. I was actually one of those poor individuals that got sucked into the John Robert Powers scheme. Do you remember that?
No.
Back in like 2004, 2005, there was this John Robert Powers scandal. And what it was is this company that was like, bring your kids and we'll tell you if they can be a star, and we'll train them and then they'll be they'll be stars. And I was like, oh yeah, this is it, and I went to one of those, and I think they gave me some very basic training for a couple hours. But other than that, I didn't really train. And then, okay, let's see. I did little workshops here and there from about 2012 to 2015, 2016. And then I started consistently training with Bob Jesser in 2016. And then I trained with him for a couple of years. And
he's an LA actor. He's based in Santa Fe, right?
He's based in Albuquerque, but he was in LA for many years, and he's from Chicago, but he was in New York for quite a while. He's been all over the place. He's had a very long career.
Oh man.
Yeah, and so
he's based in Albuquerque.
Yeah, he's based in Albuquerque now. He's with the O agency just like I am, and we had a friendship for a long time, and then finally one day I was like, you know what? This is around the time that I'm getting my personal stuff together. I don't know if I can say the S word on this podcast. So.
Oh yeah, it's my podcast. You can say what you want.
Okay, great. Well, I was getting my personal shit together right around that time. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to start training in acting. So, I said, okay, Bob, I'm going to come to your class. And so I did. And that when, I trained with him for a couple of years, and it was a really wonderful, experience for me because he pointed out a lot of things that I really didn't think about, especially the personal tics that I have. All actors have tics, right? And it's a matter of, have you learned to control those or, mitigate them or etc. And so channel them into the character. I don't know. And so because of that, not only was I able to establish more of a process in approaching work, but I was also able to establish more of a self-awareness, which I think not only helped me in acting, but also helped me in my own life as well. And God, I've been in therapy now for 5 years, and that has helped me with acting as well. Because, again, I think that if you can, Bob calls it your instrument, yourself, your Eunice is your instrument, right? And so he says if you don't tune your instrument and bring it up to where it needs to be to play properly, then you won't play properly, right? And so. That's been really my journey for the past 5 or so years, is really tuning my instrument, which has been both a process of acting training as well as a process of therapy and working through my own issues and getting to a point where self-awareness is what I'm walking in the room with.
Awareness is huge. It's a mantra that I learned when I was going through drama school, and it's something that I have to keep reminding myself. Awareness, but without judgment. And especially separating those two things out in terms of performance as well is something that I constantly am rediscovering for myself, whether it be an audition, mostly auditions. Usually when I get to a film set or I'm working in a play, I have much more, not just confidence and comfort, but there's just that extra level where I'm past the point of having to judge myself and my performance. I just get to be, I get to do. I'm not an actor anymore. I'm that character. I'm learning how that character walks, talks, moves, and I'm not judging those movements. I'm just saying that's how that happens. And I'm learning those little things. But to be constantly reminding ourselves of that through classes and through therapy, I think is vital for the artist.
Absolutely. And, this isn't to say that we've all mastered it. I think it's an ongoing thing, I mean, for me, especially every time I walk onto set, every time I walk off of set, I'm going through this sort of examination of, okay, where was I in this moment? When wasn't I in the moment? What did I do? What didn't I do, etc. And there was a time in my acting career that I never did that. I was just like, okay, we're done. That was awesome. Bye. And so I think we sort of evolve as actors to change the way that we view and reflect on our experience and our work. So
I think that's healthy. Once you leave the set or you're driving home, you get to kind of think about it because you're now separating yourself from the work. You're saying, okay, that was the work. Let's see what that was. Okay, this is how, and then you're kind of connecting that to how you were feeling. But then when you do it again, you're not in the moment making those tweaks. You made the tweaks on that drive home. And that's something that I like you're saying, like to separate out those times when you're judging and when you're performing are something that we have to try to separate out for ourselves, but is a lifelong pursuit.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I failed to mention is one of the reasons I chose communication as a major is for acting. When I signed up, so I started college at UNM as a creative writing major, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. And so eventually I took a class on communication, and I was like, oh my God, this is talking about impression management and how, social cognition. Like, this is acting. They're basically telling you they're talking about the point we have to get to as actors. They're talking about the work in a really sort of clinical, scientific, soft science kind of way. And so theater was never for me. Theater scares the shit out of me, to be quite honest with you. And I think it would be healthy for me to go and try to explore that. But I haven't had the guts yet to do it. Theater super scares me.
What is it about theater that scares you?
It's about I think it's about just you start at A and you go to Z and there's not really stopping, right? You're like, okay, I mean, maybe it'd be fine. I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I can't really answer that for you yet because it's still something that I'm working on figuring out for myself. But it also might be the exposure of being there's something about being in front of a lens that's filtered. Okay. There's a time delay in audience response. See what I mean? And then when you're in theater, there's no time delay. The audience is right there absorbing the material. There's no delay. If they hate it, they hate it. But in film and television, if they hate it, that's their problem. I don't have to see it, you know?
And there's a lot of other people to blame, too.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. I have a problem with blaming myself for everything. So I don't know if I could even use that excuse. But you know, and I know this makes me a little bit cowardly, and I'm fine admitting that. I'm fine saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm being a coward.
I don't know about that. I think it's ideas of comfort as well, and where you feel free, and trying to find that comfort and freedom in different mediums. I think is something that I'm always trying to find as an actor that wants to pursue different mediums. And I know there's actors that don't. You know, there's musical theater actors, there's voiceover artists, and those are very specific subsets. But I'm an actor that I do want to definitely keep pursuing different mediums. They're all very different, require wholly different expressions and ways of living through those moments, and how long you get to live through those moments before a cut is heard, or you know, is very interesting. But finding the how that medium works, its strengths, its weaknesses, and then finding that comfort and freedom within that medium for myself, Jamie, is something that I'm constantly working on because I just want to.
Yeah, well, bravo to you, because I want to get there and be right along in the same mindset that you're in. And I'm hoping that'll come as I age. But I you know, and maybe it is a guts thing. Maybe it's an insecurity thing. Maybe it's just a safety. I don't know. But you make some great points. Going into different mediums, I think, is very important for growth. And I absolutely agree with you there. I think so, but haven't had the guts to do it yet.
But if you're finding success within film and TV, it's hard to you know, push yourself out of that comfort zone because you're finding that that level of acceptance. You found that comfort and freedom, and it's so hard to break into one medium and find that, let alone, you know. So it's almost like if you don't, you're almost dissipating your energies pursuing too much. You need to and that's within acting. You know, that's within mainstream American acting. and there's so many different types of performance. And then there's so many types of things that are within the entertainment industry that it's almost a foolish pursuit to be pursuing all these different subsets of hats, tasks, crew departments within the entertainment industry globally. That, you know, sometimes it makes me wish that I did focus specifically on film and TV. Just get nice and comfortable and free in that. And you've grown up with that comfort in front of the lens because of your dad being that photographer. That's fantastic. And I wouldn't say that has nothing to do with your career at all. You know, I really would say, like you brought that up in the podcast right off the get-go. I do think that it had a lot to do with your comfort in front of the lens, that being a part of your living room.
Yeah. Huh. Well, you know, time will only tell. And there's definitely a niche of the acting community that says, if you're not a theater actor, you're not an actor. And there's a lot of shame around that. Like when people ask me, oh, where'd you go to film school? Or where'd you go to theater? What would you call that? Oh my God, I sound like such
drama
an idiot.
School, a conservatory.
Thank you. Please forgive me for sounding like an ignorant tool.
No.
But anyway, you know, when people ask me that kind of thing, I'm always mortified. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't go to conservatory or to drama school. I didn't train with one of the greats. And it's embarrassing for me because I know that there's a lot of judgment from some people. I'm not saying from you or from Joe Schmo, but I've seen it. I've seen people shit on other actors because, oh, they didn't even go to film, you know, and it's like, I'm one of those flippin' people. And even, you know, Bob Jesser, who trained me for a long time, he went to film school or drama school. He was on Broadway. He did all of these amazing theater things. And I'm over here like, I just kind of have a degree in communication. Does that work? And people are like, really, dude? And so I understand that I'm outside of the die-hard warrior actor that is the theater actor. And there is an embarrassment and shame for that. Yeah, I do feel shame that I didn't take that path. But at the same time, one of the things I'm working on in my life is to stop feeling shame.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of it. And
Yeah.
so there's the other side of me that's like, who cares, dude? You're working. Deal with it, And so I have two sides just battling each other out on a regular basis.
Well, that's what proves the point, right? Are you successful? Are you working constantly? And then that just brings to bear what's come before. That can kind of prove that formula. And there's so many different formulas now. There's a lot of business people that never got MBAs. And the tradition of going to a drama school or a conservatory is very historical. I think that's where it comes from. There's a history of it, a culture of that has largely passed away. I mean, there are drama schools that are really struggling with all this streaming, how to perform in front of different types of cameras now that are smaller, as small as a GoPro or a drone flying overhead. How do you prepare as an actor to perform for that? All these classical plays are still performed, obviously, but there's increasingly more experimental plays that are entering contemporary playwriting. So how do you work with that when everyone has a completely unique voice and these directors have completely unique ways of staging productions? I mean, drama schools are really struggling right now because there's so much choice. There's so much information information overload. The industry and the world's being inundated with all of this. And so that's just my way of saying that everybody has their own unique path. And that's very much what the Hollywood Actor Podcast is about showing successful actors and showing other people that are interested in this that there is no one set formula to becoming a successful Hollywood actor, but that you can come from any walk of life. You can train at any university, drama school, conservatory, or not. You can have reworked your career to now be performing on stages, on screens all over the world.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that you're promoting that, because at the end of the day, regardless of how much shame I or another actor might feel for not having taken the traditional path, there are other paths that people can take, and there are successful star actors and actresses who haven't taken the traditional path and are doing amazing work today. So, cheers.
Cheers indeed. Thanks for listening to the Hollywood Actor Podcast. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to rate and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening.